Caloroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Another feisty one today. The topics this week, other than SNL, have just been different. But let's start with Dave Chappelle. Big attention-getting headline. Dave Chappelle says SNL producers forbade him from talking about Gaza and trans people. The mainstream news reporting SF Gate's senior culture editor Dan Gentile, who saw the comedian at the beginning of some recent appearances in San Francisco. According to Dan, Chappelle alleges he was not allowed to speak about Gaza and transgender people. That said, on the SNL monologue, Dave did mention Palestine. You may recall Chappelle said the presidency is no place for petty people. So Donald Trump, I know you watched the show. Man, remember, whether people voted for you or not, they're all counting on you. Whether they like you or not, they're all counting on you. The whole world is counting on you. I mean this when I say this. Good luck. Please do better next time. Please, all of us, do better next time. Do not forget your humanity, and please have empathy for displaced people, whether in the Palisades or Palestine. In the San Francisco set, Dan reports that Chappelle didn't elaborate much more on Gaza, except to close with, "Give the Jews a break, free Palestine," before literally dropping the mic. So the SF Gate article's been around for a few days. I didn't catch it prepping the show because of all the SNL noise until today when I typed the word Chappelle into Google, as I tend to do. That's when all this came up. I believe Dan has written about Chappelle quite a few times in the past, neither here nor there, but I think he covers Chappelle closely. In the SF Gate story, Dan tells us Chappelle closed the first of the 3 shows with a very long story. Dan writes, the anecdote began with a warning from Chappelle about conspiracy theories, then moved on to Atlanta, where the rapper T.I., who joined Chappelle on stage in Oakland last November, took him on a tour of the city and introduced him to slain Los Angeles rapper Nipsey Hussle. The story took a few twists and turns, touching on the FBI hip-hop task force that monitored rappers in the 90s, Chappelle's mentor Charlie Burnett and his battle with AIDS, and a star-studded Hollywood party coronating Hussle as the new king of hip-hop just before his tragic murder. About 10 minutes into the story, writes Dan, Chappelle noticed someone in the front row checking their watch. Like that front row fan, I also felt a little bored at times. I've been a vocal critic of Chappelle over the years. Yes, he has written about Dave before, which has led to an inbox flooded with hate mail and even Chappelle calling me a snitch at the punchline. But whatever you think of his transphobic turn in the early 2020s, it's hard to argue with the fact that he's one of our greatest living comedians. Dan adds, I'm happy to report that Chappelle has dropped his villain persona, and that this time, security didn't confiscate my notebook, although I'd hidden a pen and paper in my shoe just in case. He still makes a few jokes about San Francisco's gay community, but at the Masonic, they lack the punching down vitriol that characterized his darker years, and they were always walked back with upbeat apologies. He called San Francisco his home away from home, and softened a now iconic anecdote about how San Francisco needs a Batman, quoting the Chappelle of the past. What the F happened to this place is now, I love your city, but you've got to admit it needs some sprucing up. And when he caught the fan looking at his phone, Chappelle let out a self-deprecating joke and quickened his pace. Dan then writes about the SNL story I opened up the podcast with. Continuing, there were a few other political trends. Chappelle briefly said Trump was wreaking havoc, and in the night's most surprising moment, got more cheers than boos when polling the audience on who voted for Trump. Dave revealed he had voted for Biden in 20 and Harris in 24, but he didn't have anything else to say about the administration's policies, just tired jokes about how Trump is a closeted homosexual. Dan editorializes a hard argument to make, given that he is legally considered a convicted rapist. Chappelle spent more time making fun of former President Joe Biden than anything else, with a refrain about the Sleepy Joe nickname that just sounded tired. More than any other topic, Chappelle spent most of the night talking about his famous buddies, mostly Kanye West. Kanye recently insulted Chappelle in a series of angry and anti-Semitic tweets, criticism that Chappelle seemed to brush off, emphasizing that they'd overcome previous feuds. Dan continues, there's a fun sense of voyeurism into hearing Chappelle recount phone conversations with Kanye and his experiences rubbing elbows with Jay-Z and Snoop Dogg at parties, and despite Chappelle's immense celebrity, he's still able to sound like a wide-eyed outsider to fans. But there was an elephant in the room, Elon Musk, who Chappelle once brought on stage at the Chase Center, but whose name wasn't spoken once. If Chappelle wants to make his relationships to stars the centerpiece of the show, well, there's one who is literally pontificating from the Oval Office. His day cruising Atlanta with T.I. sounded fun, but I'd much rather hear what he has to say about Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. This is a great piece by Dan, who tells us after the show, fans took refuge from the rain under the marble columns. I overheard a woman remark that the show felt like story time, that Chappelle's anecdotes were lulling her to sleep. Does Dave need to go away for a while? Is that what I'm picking up here? That the act is getting tired, the material's getting tired, he won, the Grammy 3 years in a row? Maybe he needs to just not be in the spotlight for a minute? Maybe? Dan writes, for a storyteller as gifted and insightful as Chappelle, this show felt like he was on autopilot rather than picking up the mantle as one of the world's most incisive cultural critics. Whether this role is his responsibility is up for debate, but I'd likely say no. Really, really good piece there, Dan. Oh my, I just checked the clock. That was a long opening story. It's been good. A lot of content lately. All right, Dana Carvey's account tweeted to promote the podcast. The Twitter account did not address, when I looked, why Dana was not at SNL 50. In Variety, they're reporting that Dana had a bad flu, which prevented him from participating in the show. That would make sense if he wasn't well enough to travel. It would be weird if there were another reason, considering Carvey had been on the show a lot this fall. So I don't want anyone to ever have the flu, but, I hope that's the reason he missed, as opposed to something more nefarious. Get well soon, Dana Carvey. I was in a bit of a panic. I was like, did I get the George Lopez story wrong? Did George Lopez even put out a special on Amazon on Tuesday? Because there's no press about it. I, once again, typed George Lopez into Google. There's nothing. I actually went on Amazon. I'm like, does this special exist, or did I get the date wrong? Oh, no, it exists. It's out. I didn't watch it yet. Tuesday night, I was watching Paradise on Hulu. I don't want to say a word about Paradise other than, trust me, it's good. When you watch it, then you can email me on the side. My email address is in the show notes, so I don't want to ruin it for everybody. But Paradise is pretty good. Should be a lot more buzz on Paradise. I wasn't in the mood to watch Lopez nor Rosebud yet, but let me know if you've watched those in the group. Facebook group is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. Before I saw the Chappelle thing, I thought this would be the lead story. Cheech and Chong are putting out a movie? Yeah, where did this come from? Cheech and Chong's last movie will be out on 4/20, if you know, you know. This is a buddy comedy documentary hybrid chronicling the career of Cheech and Chong. The official description: Cheech and Chong's last movie, great title, by the way, because of what they titled their other movies. Cheech and Chong's last movie defies documentary expectations, offering a wildly imaginative take on genre convention, a true-life tale told through a mix of animation and archival madness, all underscored by a classic cinematic road trip comedy, tracing the enduring legacy of pioneering comics Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong. The film features interviews, sketches, and never-before-seen footage spanning the duo's 5-decade career. The result is an unlikely story of friendship and fame, turmoil and defiance, rebellion, and ultimately, redemption. There's a trailer. I went to pull the audio, and the mix of just overlap clips and naughty language made me say, you know what? It's not worth playing the trailer on an audio podcast. But in the trailer, you would see Cheech and Chong driving through the desert in a black Cadillac with a marijuana leaf hood ornament. Cheech says, "You sure we're going the right way?" Chong says, "We're in the middle of nowhere." Cheech says, "No, we're southwest of nowhere. We're not in the middle yet." People are upset at Tom Hanks. You may have seen Tom Hanks in a comedy sketch on Saturday Night Live. Tom Hanks played a Donald Trump supporter in the sketch. The character's body language suggested that the character was scared to shake a black man's hand. That drew criticism from several Trump supporters online, including former SNL cast member Victoria Jackson. You didn't think I was going to say that, did you? No, you didn't. Yes, Victoria Jackson, you remember her? She was part of SNL from 86 to 92, and she was there on Sunday, which is great because I know she's had a lot of health problems. She slammed the sketch in an interview with TMZ, calling it stupid. She also claims she was offended by the show's sexual vulgarity and crude jokes. I'm trying to rack my brain about what that could be. Maybe that last sketch where Eddie Murphy got a little naughty? Victoria Jackson asked TMZ, "Did anyone make fun of the Kamala supporters?" Hanks had previously played the character named Doug, who wears a Make America Great Again hat. Hanks played that role in a 2016 Black Jeopardy sketch, which I recall being very well received. Victoria Jackson pointed to a Twitter post from political commentator Link Lauren. Link wrote, "This show wonders why their ratings are in the gutter. Trump won the popular vote. SNL is an unfunny show for snobbish liberal elites. The current Republican Party is a big tent coalition comprised of many former Democrats. Good riddance, SNL." I don't know what good riddance means. The show's not going anywhere. Variety reports NBC's 50th anniversary special for SNL had 14.8 million viewers. So I'm not sure I agree with Link's sentiment that their ratings are in the gutter. Meghan McCain also criticized Tom Hanks. Meghan wrote, "Tom Hanks always wants to pretend he's the likable everyman, but he's as hate-mongering of regular Americans as any host on MSNBC. Good luck becoming less and less culturally relevant by the second, bro." They're coming for you, Tom Hanks. All right. It's a comedy show, folks. Comedy shows make fun of things. Boy, I am stressing about the clock already. Let me push this one to tomorrow. If you're curious, Google Trevor Noah. It'll take me a minute to unpack that one. W. Kamau Bell explained to NPR why he played the Kennedy Center after several entertainers have severed ties with the Kennedy Center. Some folks are upset that President Trump has assumed the chairmanship of the Kennedy Center. Bell told NPR, I think Joe Biden was still running for president when the show was booked, so this wasn't connected to any of this. Trump had already said he was going to take over, but nobody knew what that meant. So on the flight to Washington, D.C., I got the Wi-Fi, as I always do, and I started getting emails and texts from people about doing a show at the Kennedy Center. And it was like a clear sense of oh, something's happened, you know? I did a show 3 years ago in one of the smaller rooms, so I have a lot of respect for the Kennedy Center, and you can't help but feel like how cool it is to be there, even as an audience member. You sort of feel like a bona fide winner at the Kennedy Center. There's something about nobody's going to tell me I'm not an artist of note ever again, you know? NPR said, so you and the comedian who opened for you, Dwayne Kennedy, made jokes about the whole situation. He said something like, welcome to the last time two black guys are going to be at the Kennedy Center. And you said something along the lines of, my kids like to eat every day, so that's why I'm here. But seriously, did you ever think about canceling? Bell said, so the people at the Kennedy Center reached out because they were sort of almost preparing for me to cancel. But for me, I'm connected to it as a black person, to all this history and my family of showing up. So I knew there was never a point at which I thought about not showing up. And let's remember, the Kennedy Center is in a city called Washington, D.C. So as much as MAGA runs the White House, maybe they don't run Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. has always been a bright blue progressive place. If you want to move the White House to Branson, Missouri, understandably, you would program the Kennedy Center in a different way. If the Kennedy Center called me this week and said, you want to do a show at the Kennedy Center? That might have been a different decision. I might still have done it, but it's a different decision. I've been planning this for months, you know what I mean? And so on some level, it's like I, the performer, want to do the thing I've been looking forward to. There's part of me that knows my audience, specifically in times of stress and pain and controversy, actually wants to hear from me. And some of it is about showing up and being my full self, as my mom taught me, as the Bay Area raised me to be, as I want my kids to see me, being in that space at that time. Good stuff from Bell here. He says, my whole career, at least for the last 15 years or so, has been about earning a living, but also making sure it's easier for the person behind me who either looks like me or is aligned with me. For me, I have to be loud and to be clear as possible for the people who can't be loud and clear, and I've got to take care of my family. But that does mean that sometimes, and I've done this for years, turn down things that were going to pay me because I can't be over there, because I don't think over there I can be myself. Bell continued, people say stay in your lane, and we go, no, know your lane. What can you do in that lane that you're already in that can help make it easier on somebody who can't do the work that you can do? That's where it starts. People are like, I'm going to go back to law school. No. What are you doing now? I'm going to start a nonprofit. No. What are you doing now? And how can you start making that lane more equitable, more inclusive, more diverse where you are? One way you can support the show is you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. It has been so cold. I even got a hot coffee this morning, but I got two. So I had the hot coffee, and here's, this is my iced coffee that's 98% filled, but the ice is gone because it's 5 hours old now. I do that. But it's been cold. I was looking up. This time last year, I was stretching out for a race, and I was in 8-mile shape. I was doing 8-mile training runs. Right now, I'm in 8-minute shape. Later today, buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Later today, I'm going to drop a bonus episode. I banged this out late last week when I did the story. It was Variety with the top comedy performances of the 21st century. And I grabbed Spruce the AI. And Spruce and I kicked around the topic for a little bit. So I'll drop that later this afternoon. It's a bonus episode. Skippable, just fun. People didn't seem to mind the last time I did that. And I'm not going to make it a regular thing, but, it's a toy I can play with now and then. And I just wanted to discuss with someone, in this case, Spruce the AI. Julia Louis-Dreyfus on Veep is the top TV performance, never mind comedy, top TV performance of the 21st century. But then Spruce and I got into, all right, what is the top comedic performance? Is it Chappelle's show something? Is it Adam Sandler or something? Is it Kate McKinnon after the 2016 election? I don't know. All right, I just bumped two more stories. Looks like I can pre-record one of the weekend days. All right, I got enough. All right, Ben Stiller. I've been bumping this one all week, too. He's going to return to TV in The Band. The hour-long dramedy will be developed and housed at HBO. Deadline tells us The Band features on Ben Stiller's character Oscar, who is a pop music promoter and talent tycoon who's plagued by scandal. And he takes on the task of forming a new act to save his career and maybe even his own soul. Boy, there's some copywriting if I've ever seen it. All right, I got to get out here. Bonus episode later today, and I will see you tomorrow.